What if I told you that the voice in your head constantly criticizing you, doubting your abilities, and replaying your failures isn't actually you? What if those relentless negative thoughts that feel so real, so urgent, so true, are nothing more than mental noise that you can learn to silence? Right now, millions of people are trapped in their own minds, prisoners to an endless stream of self-defeating thoughts that whisper, "You're not good enough. You'll never succeed. Everyone else has it figured out except you." But what if there was an ancient key that could unlock the door to this mental prison? If you've ever felt exhausted by the constant chatter of negativity in your mind, if you've wondered why your thoughts seem to work against you rather than for you, then what you're about to discover could change everything. Buddhism teaches us that our thoughts are not our reality. They're simply mental events that we can observe, understand, and ultimately transform. Stay with me until the end, and I'll show you how Buddha's timeless wisdom can help you break free from the tyranny of negative thinking and reclaim the peace that's always been yours. The prison of negative thoughts in modern life. Negative thinking has become the invisible epidemic of our time. It's the uninvited guest that shows up at every success, whispering doubts. It's the critic that never sleeps, constantly analyzing, judging, and finding fault with everything we do. We live in an era where our minds are constantly fed comparison through social media, where perfectionism is celebrated, and where self-worth is measured by external achievements. This creates the perfect breeding ground for negative thought patterns that can consume our mental energy and steal our joy. These thoughts don't just appear randomly, they've been carefully cultivated by years of conditioning. From childhood, we've been trained to focus on what's wrong, what's missing, what could go wrong. Our education system rewards finding problems, our news media thrives on negativity, and our inner dialogue has learned to mirror this pattern. The result? We become our own worst enemies. We develop an internal voice that's harsher than any external critic, more judgmental than any outside observer. This voice tells us we're not smart enough, attractive enough, successful enough, or worthy enough. It replays embarrassing moments on repeat, catastrophizes about the future, and convinces us that we're fundamentally flawed. But here's what's truly insidious about negative thinking. It feels so real, so justified, so true, that we rarely question it. We accept these thoughts as facts, rather than recognizing them as simply mental events. We become so identified with our negative thoughts that we forget we have the power to step back and observe them. This identification with negative thinking creates a vicious cycle. The more we believe our negative thoughts, the more they multiply. The more they multiply, the more they shape our reality. Soon we're living in a world colored by pessimism, self-doubt, and limitation. Not because that's the truth of who we are, but because that's what we've trained our minds to see. Modern life has conditioned us to believe that thinking more, analyzing more, and worrying more will somehow protect us or help us succeed. But the opposite is true. Excessive negative thinking paralyzes us, robs us of creativity, and keeps us stuck in patterns that no longer serve us. The good news? This prison of negative thoughts has no real walls. The bars are made of mental habits, and habits can be changed. The lock is made of identification with these thoughts, and identification can be broken. Buddha showed us the way out over 2,500 years ago, and his teachings are more relevant today than ever. Buddha's path to mental freedom. Buddhism offers profound insights into the nature of negative thinking and provides practical tools for liberation. At the heart of Buddhist psychology is the understanding that our thoughts are not permanent, not personal, and not necessarily true. They're simply mental phenomena that arise and pass away. One of Buddha's most revolutionary teachings is the concept of not-self, or Anatta. This doesn't mean we don't exist, but rather that we're not our thoughts. The voice in your head that judges, criticizes, and doubts is not the real you. It's simply a mental pattern that has been conditioned over time. When we understand that we are not our thoughts, we begin to create space between ourselves and our negative thinking. This space is freedom. In this space, we can observe our thoughts without being controlled by them. We can witness the arising and passing of negative thoughts without being swept away by their emotional charge. Buddha taught about the impermanent nature of all phenomena. Anicca. This includes our thoughts and emotions, that devastating self-criticism that feels so solid and permanent. It's actually as temporary as a cloud passing through the sky. That voice telling you you're not good enough? It's a mental weather pattern that will change if you don't feed it with your attention and belief. Understanding impermanence helps us develop a healthier relationship with our thoughts. Instead of fighting against negative thoughts or trying to suppress them, we can simply watch them arise and naturally dissolve. This approach reduces the struggle and, paradoxically, reduces the power of negative thinking. The Buddha also taught about the nature of suffering, dukkha. Much of our suffering comes not from external circumstances, but from our resistance to what is. When we have a negative thought, our first instinct is often to judge ourselves for having it, to fight against it, or to believe it completely. All of these responses create additional suffering. Buddhist wisdom invites us to accept the presence of negative thoughts without identifying with them or believing them. It's like watching clouds in the sky. You don't judge the clouds, you don't try to push them away, and you don't mistake yourself for the clouds. You simply observe them with neutral awareness. Another crucial teaching is the concept of attachment, tanha. We often become attached to our negative thoughts, strange as that may seem. We identify with them, we feed them with our attention, and we use them to construct our sense of self. I am someone who always messes up. I am not capable. I am unworthy. These become identity statements rather than temporary mental events. Liberation comes when we can hold our thoughts lightly, without grasping or pushing away. When a negative thought arises, we can acknowledge it. I notice I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough, rather than I am not good enough. This simple shift in language creates enormous space for freedom. Buddha also emphasized the importance of right understanding and right mindfulness. Right understanding means seeing thoughts for what they truly are, temporary mental events that don't define us. Right mindfulness means staying present and aware, rather than getting lost in the stories our minds create. The practice of mindfulness allows us to catch negative thoughts early, before they spiral into full-blown patterns of rumination. It's like being a vigilant gardener who spots weeds while they're still small and easy to remove, rather than waiting until they've taken over the entire garden. Perhaps most importantly, Buddhism teaches us about the inherent goodness of our true nature. Beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the negative thought patterns, there exists a fundamental awareness that is peaceful, spacious, and free. Negative thoughts are like dust on a mirror. They may obscure the reflection temporarily, but they don't change the essential nature of the mirror itself. This understanding gives us tremendous hope and motivation. We're not trying to become someone new. We're simply removing the obstacles that prevent us from experiencing our natural state of peace and clarity. If this message resonates with you, and you're seeking more moments of peace and insight, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for daily reflections rooted in ancient wisdom and modern clarity. Practical meditation techniques for transforming negative thoughts. Buddhism provides us with powerful meditation practices specifically designed to work with negative thinking patterns. These techniques don't require years of training or perfect conditions. They are practical, grounded tools that can be applied anywhere, at any moment, when you become aware of a negative thought arising. Whether you're sitting in silence, walking in the park, or even in the middle of a stressful situation, these practices invite you to shift your relationship with your own mind. The foundation of working with negative thoughts is mindfulness meditation. This practice helps you develop the capacity to observe your thoughts without getting entangled in their content. Instead of identifying with every thought as if it were a command or an absolute truth, you begin to witness them as passing mental events. You're no longer inside the thought. You're watching it from a place of spacious, neutral awareness. That shift alone is transformative. To practice mindfulness with negative thoughts, begin by settling into a comfortable and upright position. Close your eyes gently or soften your gaze and bring your attention to your breath. Notice the natural rhythm of inhaling and exhaling. As thoughts arise, and they will, don't fight them. Don't try to chase them away or suppress them. Instead, Acknowledge them with gentle awareness. Label them softly in your mind, thinking, judging, worrying, comparing, or criticizing, and then, without force, guide your attention back to your breath. This simple act of naming your thought and returning to the breath creates space. It teaches you a vital truth, that your thoughts are not facts, they are not permanent, and they are not necessarily wise. They are like clouds floating through the sky, sometimes dark and heavy, sometimes light and drifting, but always moving. Your task is not to change them, but to stop letting them define your reality. Another powerful method is loving kindness meditation, or Metta. This practice is especially effective for softening the impact of negative thoughts, particularly those aimed at ourselves. When your inner dialogue is harsh or critical, Metta introduces a new tone, a voice of kindness, compassion, and gentleness that begins to heal the wounds created by self-judgment. Start by directing kind wishes toward yourself, even if it feels awkward at first. Say silently, "May I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free from suffering." Repeat this like a mantra, allowing the intention behind the words to sink into your heart. And when negative thoughts arise during the practice, "I'm not good enough, I always mess things up," greet them with the same compassion you would offer a hurting friend. You might gently respond, "I see that I'm being hard on myself. May I meet this moment with kindness." Over time, this shifts the internal landscape from one of hostility to one of healing. The practice of Metta gradually weakens the voice of the inner critic. Rather than fueling shame or frustration, you begin to relate to your pain with understanding. You stop fighting your mind and begin nurturing it, and in that nurturing, transformation begins. Visualization meditation is another technique that can be incredibly supportive when working with persistent negative thoughts. Visual metaphors give your mind something tangible to work with, a way to hold the experience without being consumed by it. One powerful visualization is to imagine your negative thoughts as clouds drifting across the vast open sky of your awareness. Some clouds are thick and stormy, others light and fleeting, but none of them are permanent. You are not the cloud, you are the sky. This simple image can help you disidentify from the thoughts and create emotional distance. Another imagery-based technique is to picture your negative thoughts as leaves floating down a stream. Sit quietly and visualize yourself seated on the bank, watching as each thought floats gently by. You don't need to follow them, fix them, or jump into the stream. Just watch and let them go. This practice trains the mind in non-reactivity, helping you stay grounded and centered even when difficult thoughts arise. For thoughts that return frequently or with strong emotional force, use the technique of noting and releasing. When a thought like, "I'm a failure," or "nobody cares about me" arises, say to yourself, "I'm having the thought that I'm a failure." This subtle shift from "I am" to "I'm having the thought that" creates immediate psychological distance. Then visualize releasing it. Imagine the thought dissolving into a beam of light or floating off like a balloon into the open sky. The act of release reinforces the reality that thoughts are impermanent and that you don't have to hold on to everything that passes through your mind. The key to all of these practices is consistency, not perfection. You don't need to meditate for hours or reach a transcendent state. Even 5 or 10 minutes a day, practiced sincerely, can begin to untangle the knots of negative thinking. The goal is not to eliminate all negative thoughts. That's neither realistic nor necessary. The goal is to change your relationship with them so they no longer dominate your emotional world or dictate your actions. Breathing techniques can also be a powerful anchor when negative thoughts start to spiral. Conscious breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, calming the body and mind. A simple technique is box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale for 6. This rhythm soothes the nervous system and brings your attention back to the present moment. You can do this any time, before a stressful conversation, during anxious moments, or right before bed. Remember, the presence of negative thoughts doesn't mean something is wrong with you. They are part of the human experience. But with awareness, with patience, and with kindness, you can stop being dominated by them. Ultimately, these meditation practices work because they address the root of negative thinking, our attachment to and identification with our thoughts. When you no longer take your thoughts at face value, when you observe them without fear or urgency, you reclaim your freedom. You begin to live from a deeper, more peaceful place, not as a prisoner of the mind, but as a compassionate witness to its ever-changing flow. Through daily practice, the mind softens, the noise quiets, and what remains is space, spaciousness for peace, for clarity, for life to be lived fully without the constant filter of negativity. That is the gift of mindfulness, the power of loving kindness, and the liberation offered by Buddhist meditation. Rewiring the mind. Daily rituals to dissolve negative thinking. Most of us try to think our way out of negative thoughts. But here's the truth. Insight alone isn't enough. Reading about peace won't make you peaceful. Real change happens through practice, gentle, consistent, daily training of the mind. The following exercises are not lofty ideals. They are small, doable rituals that fit into your real life, not just a meditation retreat or spiritual bubble. Use them as mental hygiene, as inner maintenance. Over time, they become less of a routine and more of a way of being. First, morning alignment ritual, 3 to 5 minutes. Before your mind is hijacked by the noise of the world, give it direction. As you open your eyes, take a deep breath and ask, what kind of energy do I want to bring into today? How can I show up with more presence? Then choose a guiding phrase. Try, today I respond instead of react. I let go of what I can't control. Let it echo in your mind as you begin your day. Second, micro-pause method, 30 seconds anytime. Modern life doesn't give you time to breathe, so you take it. Stop what you're doing. Close your eyes, feel one full breath from start to finish. Ask yourself, what's happening in my mind right now? This micro-pause allows space between thought and reaction, and in that space, you take your power back. Third, label the thought, loosen its grip. Throughout the day, catch negative thoughts in the wild. Don't analyze, just name them. Doubt, self-criticism, catastrophizing. Naming creates distance. You're no longer inside the thought, you're watching it, and what you can watch you can choose not to follow. Fourth, the kindness anchor. When the inner critic shows up, meet it with your secret weapon, kindness. Repeat quietly, I'm doing the best I can. It's okay to be human. I forgive myself for this moment. Each phrase is a drop of warmth in a cold thought loop. With repetition, this rewires your self-talk. Fifth, sensory reset, the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding. When your mind spirals, come back to your senses. 5 things you see, 4 you hear, 3 you can touch, 2 you smell, 1 you taste. It's not magic, it's neuroscience. Sensory grounding shifts the brain from fear mode into presence mode. Sixth, mental composting, evening reflection. At the end of the day, don't just scroll into sleep. Reflect. What thought drained me today? What triggered it? What's a wiser perspective I can hold instead? Write it down. Don't judge it. Compost it. What once fed suffering can now feed growth. Seventh, the gratitude switch. Negative thoughts thrive on narrow focus. Gratitude widens the lens. When stuck in a negative loop, ask, what's also true right now? Maybe it's a breeze on your skin, a message from a friend, the miracle of being alive. Name 3 things, no matter how small. Eighth, visual cleanse. Night wind practice. Before sleep, close your eyes. Picture every worry from your day as dust clouds around you. See a gentle wind blowing through, clearing the air. You are not the dust. You are the clear space behind it. Let the visual dissolve what words can't. Ninth, compassion mirror technique. Next time you catch yourself saying something cruel inwardly, pause. Now imagine saying that to a 7-year-old version of yourself. Would you? Now imagine what the most loving version of you would say instead. Speak that, out loud if possible. 10th, the mindful doorway. Choose one everyday action, like brushing your teeth opening your laptop, stepping into a room, and turn it into a mindfulness bell. Use it to ask, where's my mind right now? Is this a thought worth following? You don't need more time. You need more presence in the time you already have. Remember this, negative thoughts are not your enemy. They are invitations. Invitations to pause, breathe, and choose differently. You don't need to believe every thought. You don't need to fight every thought. You only need to see them clearly and respond with intention. Freedom is not the absence of negative thoughts. Freedom is knowing that you are not their prisoner. Practice daily and watch the chains dissolve. Living free from negative thoughts. Daily integration. The true transformation happens not on the meditation cushion, but in how we apply these principles throughout our daily lives. The goal is to create a new default mode of thinking, one that's more balanced, compassionate, and aligned with reality rather than distorted by negativity. One of the most powerful ways to integrate these teachings is through the practice of thought awareness throughout the day. Most of us go through our days unconsciously, allowing negative thoughts to run automatically in the background. By developing the habit of checking in with our thoughts regularly, we can catch negative patterns before they gain momentum. Set gentle reminders throughout your day, perhaps every hour or two, to pause and ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Is this thought helpful or harmful? Is it based on reality or on old conditioning? This simple practice of conscious awareness can interrupt years of unconscious negative thinking. When you catch a negative thought, don't judge yourself for having it. Instead, celebrate the fact that you noticed it. This awareness itself is a victory. Then you can choose how to respond. You might acknowledge the thought and let it pass, challenge it if it's unrealistic, or redirect your attention to something more constructive. Another essential practice is developing what Buddhism calls right speech, but applied to our internal dialogue. We often speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to a good friend. We're harsh, critical, and unforgiving. Begin treating yourself with the same kindness you would show someone you care about. When you notice negative self-talk, pause and ask, would I speak to my best friend this way? What would I say to comfort and encourage someone I love who was struggling with this issue? Then offer yourself the same compassion and understanding. It's also important to examine the sources that feed negative thinking. Are you consuming media that promotes comparison and inadequacy? Are you spending time with people who are consistently negative or critical? Are you engaging in activities that reinforce feelings of not being good enough? Buddhism teaches us to be mindful of what we feed our minds. Just as we're careful about what we put into our bodies, we need to be conscious of what we put into our minds. This might mean limiting social media, choosing more uplifting entertainment, or spending less time with people who drain your energy. Creating positive mental habits is equally important. Instead of waiting for negative thoughts to arise and then responding to them, we can proactively cultivate positive mental states. This might include starting your day with gratitude, setting positive intentions, or regularly affirming your inherent worth and capability. The practice of gratitude is particularly powerful for counteracting negative thinking. When we focus on what we're grateful for, it becomes much harder for negative thoughts to dominate our attention. Try keeping a gratitude journal, or simply taking a few moments each day to appreciate the good things in your life, no matter how small. Another practical application is learning to question the validity of negative thoughts. Often these thoughts are based on assumptions, fears, or past experiences that may not be relevant to the present moment. When a negative thought arises, ask yourself, is this thought true? How do I know it's true? What evidence do I have for and against this thought? This kind of gentle inquiry can help you separate fact from fiction and reduce the emotional charge of negative thinking. You might discover that many of your negative thoughts are based on old programming that no longer serves you. In challenging situations, remember that you always have a choice in how you respond. You can't control what thoughts arise, but you can control how much attention you give them and how you choose to respond. This is your power. The ability to choose your response, rather than being controlled by automatic reactions. The practice of acceptance is also crucial. Some days will be easier than others. Some negative thoughts will be more persistent than others. Instead of fighting against this reality, accept it as part of the human experience. This acceptance actually reduces the power of negative thoughts because you're not adding the additional layer of judgment and resistance. Remember, changing lifelong patterns of negative thinking takes time and patience. Be kind to yourself in this process. Celebrate small victories, learn from setbacks, and keep returning to the practices that help you feel more peaceful and free. The ultimate goal is not to eliminate all negative thoughts. That's neither possible nor necessary. The goal is to develop a healthy relationship with your thoughts, where they inform you but don't control you, where you can acknowledge challenges without being overwhelmed by them, where you can face difficulties with clarity and wisdom rather than being clouded by negativity. As you continue to practice these principles, you'll find that negative thoughts begin to lose their grip on you. They'll still arise, that's natural, but they won't have the same power to disturb your peace or limit your possibilities. You'll discover that beneath all the mental noise, there's a space of profound peace and clarity that's always available to you. This is the gift of Buddha's teachings. Not just the promise of freedom from negative thinking, but the actual tools and practices that make this freedom possible. The path is available to you right now, in this moment. All you need to do is take the first step. If this message has resonated with you, I encourage you to start today. Choose one simple practice, perhaps just observing your thoughts for a few minutes or speaking to yourself more kindly, and begin there. Share these insights with someone who might benefit from this. Wisdom. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Remember, you have the power to transform your relationship with your thoughts. That transformation begins with a single moment of awareness, a single choice to respond rather than react, a single decision to treat yourself with the kindness you deserve. Until next time, may your mind be peaceful, may your heart be light, and may you remember that you are so much more than the thoughts that pass through your awareness.